I'm excited to have Guy Shashaty. This man has a heart for men. He likes to see people succeed financially, in their business, in their personal life. And, you know, when you ask someone what they value, they'll tell you all these great things. But then what you have to do is you have to look at two things, I think. Their bank account to see if that backs it up, that's where they're putting their money, and their time. I don't know about your bank account, but I know about his time, and the efforts that he makes are in line with what he's saying about helping people succeed, because that's what he's built a business around, and that's what his other passions are, and he's done that. Married for 36 years?
36 in December.
36 years almost, and 3 kids. Guy, thanks for being here with me.
It's great to be here. I'm excited.
Good. All right, so you run, and we're going to get into all that. I just want to touch on it real quick. You run the Florida version, or the Florida chapter of Band of Brothers, a men's group, which is big, and it's impacting a lot of people. I've heard a lot of good things about it from friends. So you do that. You've built a financial services business, and you've grown it pretty good. Before I met you, I heard about you from multiple people who told me, hey, you're in this men's work. Do you know this guy? And I heard that name a few times, and finally I got to meet you a few months ago. You have an interesting story about faith and becoming a Christian.
Yes.
So I want to touch on all of that. You were a high school coach before, but let's start in the beginning. You grew up in Miami, and you're not a native Spanish speaker. That's rare.
Yeah, not only Miami. I grew up in Hialeah.
Yeah, so for those who don't know, who aren't here in South Florida, Hialeah is, years ago I read an article, the most Hispanic city in the United States.
Right.
And of that, mostly Cuban. Interestingly enough, Trump country. Hialeah yes. really is statistically.
Yes.
Yeah. All right, so talk about that. You were growing up in Hialeah.
Yeah. So when I grew up in Hialeah, it wasn't as Hispanic or as Cuban American as it is today. But I grew up in a 975 square foot home. I have 6 other brothers and sisters and my parents. So there were 9 of us living in 975 square feet.
You each got 100 feet.
Yeah.
10 by 10 cell.
6580 West 11th Court. I'll never forget it. It was just absolutely incredible growing up that way. I was po, didn't know it. Mm-hmm. Just because I never saw anybody with money. I never saw any of that. My dad was self-employed. He owned a company called the Nut Bar, which delivered snack items to stores. Mm. And I don't think he ever made more than $24,000 a year. Put us all through Catholic school by driving the bus and serving there. Mm. I think that's how he paid for the tuition for all of us to get through Immaculate Conception School in Hialeah. And had a great upbringing, Catholic upbringing. I knew everything there was to know about all the stories. I was an altar boy for 4 years. And then when I got to 9th grade, I had a decision to make. You know, I was recruited to play baseball at Pace Senior High School because the coach at Immaculate Conception was leaving Immaculate Conception to go coach baseball at Pace, and he wanted me to go with him. But I wanted to play football, and I chose football. So I went to Hialeah Miami Lakes Senior High School. Great time there. And then graduated in 1980 and was very fortunate. I wanted to play football in college with my quarterback. I was a wide receiver. So him and I ended up we had a full ride to one school. We had full rides to a lot of places, but not the same place, except for this one place, Liberty University. Mm-hmm. Didn't know anything about Liberty University. They just said it's a Christian school. I was all in. When I was a 10th grader in high school, I was invited to the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, FCA meeting. Mm-hmm. I went, and it changed my life. I ended up going to a FCA camp that summer, 16 years old, where I came to the knowledge that I knew a lot about God. I knew a lot about Jesus. I knew all the stories intellectually, but I never surrendered my life to Christ. And as a result of that, I then, at 16, surrendered my life to Christ. And from that point on, I've been out front. I call it on the front lines, taking ground for the kingdom, doing everything that I could as a coach. Because when I got out of college, 8 days after college, I'm teaching in Dade County.
Wow.
I'm driving down.
Fast. You got a job right away.
Yeah, well, it was May. School year ends in June, so I had a 30-day period. Oh. And what happened was the school I went to, Homestead High School, had a PE teacher who left to take the head football job at Southwest High School. So he had all his classes. Somebody needed to take over his classes. So instead of just getting different subs for the last 30 days, they brought me in to be the permanent guy to take all his classes. So I did. It was awesome. And I actually helped coach spring football. That fresh out of college. I'm teaching. In fact, I was substitute teaching in the summers. I was 19 years old, Joel, and I was substitute teaching at my high school.
How cool.
So I went back to my high school, substitute teaching there at 19.
Is teaching your friends.
Yes. And they walk in and go, "What are you doing here? Like, what's going on?" And I said, "Sit down."
Shut up and sit down.
So that was very interesting back then. But anyway, I'm 19. I'm out there coaching at Homestead High School spring ball, and I'm an offensive guy, so we're trying to get offense going. And there's this one kid on the other side playing defense, and we couldn't get a playoff. It was just crazy. I'm like, "What is going on?" I told the head coach that you're going to have to get him out of there. Nobody can block him. Nobody can stop him. No matter what we do, he's running it down. I've never seen anybody that dominant.
Who was this guy?
Michael Barrow, middle linebacker, went to University of Miami, played in the league with the Cowboys for years and years. He was a complete stud. Wow. And, obviously at that point, I didn't know who he was, but I found out pretty quickly who he was, and he was just amazing. And that was my first experience coaching. And then I got to teach at Coral Park High School for 2 years, coaching football and baseball. And then I went to Hialeah High, my nemesis, rival, coming up at Hialeah Miami Lakes. And then I was actually at Hialeah Miami Lakes teaching for the last 5 years of teaching. So while teaching, loving what I'm doing, but I'm broke. I take on everything you can do part-time to make extra money. I got paid $31,000 a year to teach. That was my base salary back then. And I got paid a little bit to coach football, a little bit to coach baseball, a little bit to teach night school twice a week, summer school every summer. I sponsored a club. I took on an extra class every day. So instead of having 2 off periods, I had 1. I did everything to make extra money. And those 7 part-time jobs at the school made me $9,000. So I'm making $40,000 a year. And I spent more money than I made for the 8 consecutive years I was teaching. Total disaster financially. So my sister, out of the blue, calls me up and tells me, "Hey, I want you to come check out this business." What's it about? Money, financial services. Now, my sister's in really bad shape financially. I'm horrible, but she's worse. So there's no way she's the answer to my finances. So for 6 months, she kept inviting me to come look at the business, look at the business, look at the business. I wouldn't do it. One day she says, "Hey, I want you to meet my regional vice president." I go, "You have a regional vice president?"
So she was in it? She was now working in this?
Okay. She was in the business. So I finally listened, went to a meeting, changed my life completely, changed the direction of my life. It took me 3.5 years part-time in the business before I went full-time, because I looked at it initially as a great way to get rid of all these part-time jobs and to make a lot more extra money on the side instead of just killing myself.
Right.
So what happened was I started part-time, and in June of 1991, I was so disenchanted with the school system. Now, if you would have known me back then, financial services is the last thing you would ever see me do. I'm coming to school every day. I got a hat on, T-shirt, whistle around my neck. You know, that PE coach dude, that was me. I never saw myself doing anything else. In fact, nobody else saw me doing anything else. Mm-hmm. But I was really into coaching and building team and all that. And I realized that in business, I could do the same thing. It's just a different subject. Mm-hmm. And my students didn't fall asleep. Okay, usually when I talk to them. So I got into the financial services business, left coaching and teaching in June of 91 when that school year ended, and started growing my financial services company. I was recruiting people and training them and getting them up to speed. And the whole goal is for them to one day run and operate their own office.
And what was the math for you to say, okay, I could leave, even though it's not high pay, this secure job, to take that leap? Because there's a lot of guys who sometimes are in that situation. It's been years. When are they going to get off the consistent, low paying basic job? What was that for you? What was that jump like?
The reason I was part-time for 3.5 years was because of that. I was hesitant. I remember my mom back then talking to me and saying, "Guy, don't leave teaching. We need good teachers. You're a good teacher." She was fearful.
Yeah, it's fear.
Right? It's fear. And my dad had pulled me aside without my mom hearing it and said, "Man, go for it. Like my dad was like all in. He was already owned his own business, but he didn't have the same type of business. He couldn't duplicate himself like I could.
Yeah.
So he was always going to be limited in the type of business he was in. And that helped. But I just got to the point where I came home one day and my wife knew because I was married already and you know, this is how she said it. But she has a different way of saying it. So she's not here, so I'm going to tell it the way I remember it. And she just said, "You really want to be a coach your whole life?" Like, and that's how I found out how she felt about my chosen profession at that point. Meaning she saw much more in me than I was actually doing.
Were those words impactful for you at that moment?
Oh, extremely impactful. It was almost like permission.
Yeah.
She was working with the Miami Dolphins at the time. She was a choreographer and director of the Miami Dolphin cheerleaders at the time. So she was making a little bit. It was like a part-time thing. Yeah. It wasn't ever a full-time thing. But her income early on when I went full-time saved us big time.
Yeah.
Because there were, dry months. Any entrepreneur goes through, tough times.
Yeah.
And when you're going through that tough time, you're second guessing. Should I be back teaching? All that kind of stuff. Like every entrepreneur goes through, right? You go through these periods of doubt, but I was so committed to making it happen. My first year full time, I only made $41,000 a year. And I was the most frustrated person in the world. Now I replaced my income, but that's not why I had done this. I had done this to make, and there were people around me who I felt looking at them were significantly less talented than me. And they're making $250,000, $500,000. And I'm like, this is crazy. And I figured some stuff out. And one of those things that I figured out is not everybody that I was bringing into the business was going to be successful. They were what I call low-hanging fruit. Easy to recruit, easy to get into the business, but there's a reason. They weren't busy. They all had interest, but business is not a rehab center. And I was Dr. Phil for a long time.
You're trying to help the ones that didn't want to help themselves?
I could change them.
Yeah.
Even if I wanted it more for them than they wanted it for themselves.
Never works that way.
Never works. Exactly. Well, at the time, I think I had heard that, but I'm different. I can change everybody, right? So I learned the hard way that you can't. And when I got to that point, I started controlling what I could control, which was me. So regardless of how many people I recruited, I still treated them great, did everything I could to help them along. And there were two things that I realized they had to have. Number one, coachability. You got to be coachable. And so many people out there who have no reason to not be coachable are not coachable. You're like, how could you not be coachable? Like, it's not like you have this history.
Yeah.
So I look at it like a continuum. A person who comes into a business or an entrepreneur, on a scale of 1 to 10, a person who's a 10 has everything they need. They have all the people skills. They have all the leadership. They're tough. They already figured it out, either because of their background or very few people walk into entrepreneurship and are instantly successful. They're coachable and they learn and they listen to other successful people. Well, that's a 10. A 1 knows nothing. They're just interested. I'm coaching at Highland Miami Lakes Senior High School. I'm talking to my students. It's my last 6 months before I'm leaving. I tell my students, hey, I'm going to do a seminar here on Tuesday night in my classroom. Invite your parents. And one of my students, extremely coachable, comes in and says, hey, my dad can't make it, but I want to come. I said, sure, come on. He comes. He's interested. He's 18. I taught health. That's a 10th grade class. He somehow thought he didn't have to do that. Well, he came over from Cuba when he was 12, has a chip on his shoulder, wants to do something. He wants to really take advantage of the American dream. That says he wants to do the business. Sure enough, he gets into the business. His coachability is off the chart. Tell me what to do, I'll go do it. Tell me what to do, I'll go do it. And he did exactly what I told him to do. And he's built this huge business now. Makes, $500,000 a year. And he was 18 years old when he started. But he was bad. But in order to get out of bad, you got to do stuff. And you get better.
Yeah, put in the reps.
Yeah. And that's really what it was. Repetition, repetition, repetition.
And tell me what that guy did. Okay, repetition. Well, it's a financial services business. Was he knocking on doors? What was the formula for that?
Right. So he had a job at the shoe store in the mall. He was a stock boy. They didn't let him sell the shoes. Spoke broken English.
He was that bad.
Oh yeah, that bad. He couldn't sell. So we'll let you put shoes on the shelves.
Yeah.
And so that was his history and his background. So what he started to do is he had a lot of family members in South Florida. And I said, all you want to do is tell them that you're looking at this business and I need your help. And I'm going to bring my coach, my mentor along, and he's going to explain it to you. If you're interested, great. If you're not, that's fine too. What's better, Tuesday or Thursday? And he would set appointments with these people. And most of them were like, hey, I want to help Frank out. I want him to do well. Let's just see what they have to do. Well, we were very successful because he was watching and I was doing, but he was learning as he was watching. Long story short, he became a regional vice president in about a year, opened his own office, never looked back.
Wow. And when you would go in and talk to one of his family members and you'd close them or not close them, whatever happened,
right,
you guys would go debrief, the two of you, and talk about lessons and what happened. And
oh, yeah. That's all part of what we call the field training process. We go out, we talk about it, we do it, and then we debrief. We'll go out and grab a meal. We'll go out the next day, whatever it is, and we're going to talk what happened, learning, do this, don't do that. And you just walk through the presentation that he just saw.
You know, I think that's missing. I think that has to happen in what you're doing and what you do. But I think that's missing with the average employer, the average entrepreneur. I don't think coaches their employees enough. I hear, you know, I sit on some boards and stuff, and I hear frustrations from business owners.
Of course.
And they blame the employee sometimes. It's like the opposite of extreme ownership, Jocko's book.
Yeah.
But then when I ask, like, what's your coaching strategy with your employee? And, well, I tell them what to do. And then they just don't get it. But they're not doing what you're talking about, debriefing and catching up. And now, okay, next time you try that.
Yeah.
That's a big
I don't really anticipate anything. So I don't leave any stone unturned. We're going to walk through it and coach it. And I say, even if this seems elementary to you, you're going to be one day teaching your team these very same things, and you're going to think they should know that already, but most of them won't. So you have to walk them through the steps so that they can feel confident about what it is they're going to be doing.
Yeah. Let's switch gears real quick,
Sure.
because something that you touched on, I've always been curious about, because I did not grow up Catholic. My parents did, and then they became Protestant, Baptist when they were kids, when they were young. And so you said that you knew the stories of the Bible, but it wasn't like this personal connection. What is it, and not that we're criticizing the Catholic faith, but what is it about the Catholic faith that it is a little more hands-off compared to the typical Protestant church?
Right. So Catholicism is all about the sacraments, and if you get through the sacraments, you're good for the most part. Well, that's not true, biblically. So when I came to the realization and did a lot of research on the Bible, etc., I realized that there's a lot of things in Catholicism that was tradition and things that they did. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying there's things in the Bible that contradict what they were doing.
Like what?
Well, confession.
Well, does the Bible say not to confess to a guy, or does it say confess to God?
It says there's one mediator between you and God, and that's Jesus Christ. That you don't have to go through any particular mediator. Now, I understand Catholicism because it's like you need to talk to somebody to get it off your heart and get it off your mind, and it frees you up to confess sin. But that biblically, for example, that's just not how it's done. Another one is, how do you get into heaven? If you, like I was baptized and sprinkled as a child.
Not your choice.
Correct. Exactly. Not my choice. I didn't make that decision. But yet that's supposed to be like, okay, now that you've done that, you're in, but the Bible doesn't say that. The Bible's very clear that, in Romans 3:23, it says we're all sinners and we all fall short. So once you acknowledge, okay, I'm a sinner, like everybody else, I'm a sinner. And then in Romans 6:23, it says the wages of that sin is death. They're not talking about a physical death. They're talking about a spiritual death. Sin separates us from God. Jesus came into the world to take on the sins of the world. And if we would confess with our mouths, this is Romans 10:9, if you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, you will be saved. So I confessed it, and I believed it in my head, but I didn't believe it in my heart. And part of that is a surrender, that I'm surrendering my life to Jesus, and I'm going to follow him and his commandments, his word, from this day forward. And that's what happened in 1978. So I've been at this journey for 47 years now.
Yeah. It's interesting. You mentioned Fellowship of Christian Athletes. When I was 16, I went to a Fellowship of Christian Athletes baseball camp at a university in Southern California. Drove from Oakland, California down there. And it was fantastic. Spent a week, and you know what it is. It was a really good, never went back to one of those. Couldn't afford it. But we went to the one, and
right.
I really enjoyed that. All right. So I'm sure when you started your business, because it's encouraging, you've built a lot of financial success and you've helped people do it. And then that has actually helped you continue to build your success because you have a team. You're not the same operator today than you were in 1991, right? When you started this, you were probably grinding and working a ton of hours. I want to hear about that transition. When you did that grinding, are you grinding today?
Not anywhere near what I was grinding back then. The whole purpose for growing our business is to build a team to the point where, let me back up to when I was grinding. I made a decision that I was going to make enough money financially on my own pen, meaning business I'm personally doing, and enough to put money away, enough to do all that. And if and when any of these people that I was recruiting got it going and got serious, great.
It's gravy.
But if not, I'm grinding. I put my head down, and for 20 consecutive years, our income and our business grew. Leaders started popping out, and the way our business works is they go and they run and operate their own business in another office somewhere or with you, either way, in a cluster situation, and you get to override their production forever. 1991, when I left coaching and teaching, I started that process thinking it was going to be a piece of cake because I'm a coach, I'm a teacher, everybody's going to do this. I thought all my friends were going to join the business. They're all going to do it. Not one of them. Not one of them actually did. It was
a prophet is not accepted in his own land. So when you go tell the closest people,
right?
That's just guy.
Joel, it took 6 years for any of my family members to become clients.
Wow.
6 years
they had
in the
to
business.
See you were serious.
Yes. And then they started hearing I was serious. Oh. And it wasn't until I moved into our current home, it's almost, it's like a $2 million home. Until we did that, they still doubted. Why? Because I'm living in, we bought a home in Pembroke Pines in 93. And moved in, actually we moved in January of 94 into our home in Pembroke, 3-bedroom home on a lake. $107,000 back then. Okay.
That was good money back then.
Yeah. $107,000. And, we're making $500,000. People are like, what are you doing? Like, why are you living here? And, my family members would hear how well I was doing and all that, but they didn't believe it because I'm living below my means. And I was brought up that way in the business. Save your money. One day your money will save you. All this flash and throwing your money around, I've never been all about that. As a Christian, number one, it's prideful. There's a lot of things that's not good about it. So we always lived below our means. And this is what I teach every day. I'm teaching financial service. I'm helping families get their money together. If I'm a mess financially, and I was prior to coming into the business, I was $23,000 in credit card debt at 25.
Wow.
I mean, you got to be pretty aggressive to get it done that quickly.
Especially back then.
Yeah.
That's a lot more money back then.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was a disaster financially. It took me a long time to get out of debt, too, because it was hard to write a big check when the credit card statement has this big, bold letters saying you only owe $50, but your balance is $2,800, So it took me a while, but all the stuff that I was learning transformed the way that I thought about everything. Because our company's really good at having other successful people in the business and outside of the business listen to their tapes, listen to their audios. Today it's audios, it's YouTube, it's whatever. There's an unlimited amount of successful people you can listen to. I didn't have a lot of mentors. I couldn't look to an uncle, couldn't look to anybody in my life that was successful and go and sit down with them.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. So what I did was I started listening to successful people. I would read their books. I would listen to their audios. I would just constantly, and what I look at it as is I had to flush out of my brain all of the garbage that I had learned.
Which society put in there. Which
Yes.
you listen to stories. And
You listen to stories. It's the way you were brought up. Everybody around you is a victim. Everybody around you is entitled in some way. So what happened was I began to get rid of all of that and replace it with an entrepreneurial mentality.
Did you lose friends in that process?
Tons of them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the kind of friends where, you know, we got in a big argument and separated.
You just slowly fade away?
Yeah, exactly. Slowly, and it was perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Because, you know, they say if you can't change your friends, change your friends.
Yeah, and if you have the exact same friends forever, it either is really cool or that's weird, because that means what you guys
There's
aren't
no growth.
growing in different directions.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So what happened was we were growing apart, and my friends would, you know, they would mock me early on. Oh, gonna go be a millionaire, huh? You know, you're doing that thing, and they're, you know, firefighters or cops, or, you know, they're in regular jobs kind of thing, and they say, hey, when you make your first million, come see me. Well, I went and saw them, and of course, all of them were saying, man, we knew you had what it took. You have the gift of gab. I'm like, I don't recall those lines. That's not what you were saying.
Nobody was encouraging you back then.
Back then it was mocking.
Yeah.
Now you're like, go get them, guy. You're the best. You know? So that was just like part of the story, right? Like you looking back, at the time it hurt. Why? Because when I first got into being an entrepreneur, I didn't realize how much I cared about what other people thought. And if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you've got to get to the point where you don't care what anybody else thinks, because you're trying to separate yourself from the crowd, not be part of the crowd. So you're not going to think like the crowd, which means they're going to say stuff and do stuff and be stuff that you're not going to be or do or say. So if I have to miss my distant nephew's birthday party because I'm grinding, so be it. I don't see him anyway. Yeah. They're not even part of my friend circle for the most part. Yeah. Now, my own family, that's different. My own closer, that's different. But you have to understand there's going to be a period of time where your life is going to look very out of whack to most people. Most average and ordinary people judge you based on their thinking about what success looks like. Plus, what they don't realize, well, some of them do, that when you're going after it and they're not, it makes them feel bad. Who does he think he is? Climbing the, quote, ladder, getting out there, making it happen. And here you are just going through the motions in life.
So they might say some things that hurt.
Oh, absolutely. They say stuff that hurts all the time. Well, so I was affected by that early. Okay. And I had mentors that said, listen, man, you got to get to the point where you don't care what people think. Yeah. Because people who are successful, they don't care. Yeah. You know, I don't remember Michael Jordan ever like caring what other people thought. In fact, he got in their face. He practiced harder than everybody else. He shot more shots than anybody in the NBA, in NBA history. He made more shots, but he also missed more shots. But nobody talks about that. Mm-hmm. In baseball, you're a Hall of Famer if you're successful 30% of the time. Yeah. It's just crazy, right? Yeah. It's like, but these are all things that, you know, as an entrepreneur, you have to lock in. And flushing out the old stuff takes time. But the only way to flush it out is to take in the right stuff. So you start reading and listening to successful people. And if you can get mentors in your life who can speak into your life, who you can meet with once a month, have lunch with, go grab a coffee, where they can say, hey man, I've been down that road. Let me tell you what the result's going to be. You either do this or you do that. You go, oh, okay.
That has a big influence on your life, having those, just the proximity to successful people. Just like you, I grew up in Oakland, California, thereabouts. I didn't know any successful people. So I had the same problem you're talking about. I had all that negative talk and jealousy that I heard. I wasn't jealous, but I heard about people, oh, so-and-so's a rich guy. That's an evil thing. So I had to deprogram all that stuff. So I hear what you're talking about, and having mentors, just hanging out with a successful person, right? You hang out with a guy who's super fit, you're going to start getting more fit. You start hanging out with a rich guy who worked hard to get there. He's going to say some things. You're going to go, oh, that's a different way to look at it.
When you never have money, you look at rich people differently. I remember growing up, I'd pull up to a light, some young kid my age or right around my age is driving a nice car. I'd look over and go, yeah, daddy got it for him. Or drugs. He's doing drugs.
Well, yeah, in all fairness, you were in the 80s in Miami, so that makes sense.
Well, right. But you justify everything.
Yeah.
And it makes you not have to go get after it when you sit there and justify everything.
Yeah.
You know, but even today, in today's world, oh, it's so hard out there. No, it's not. There's room for people who want to separate themselves from the crowd. There always has been and there always will be. If you want to separate yourself from everybody else, it's a mindset, it's a determination, and it's a thing where you just have to get to the point where you don't care what other people think. Now, you can't get there without taking in a lot of good stuff so you can get rid of all the bad. It literally is a flushing of your brain.
And so that's the beginning. That's the most important part. It's fixing up here. You do all that reprogramming over time. But then, like that guy Frank that you talked about, and yourself, myself, people who've made some money and had some success, we had to take action. We had to get up every single day and do something. I'm sure you were cold calling on days you didn't want to cold call.
Yeah, we in our business, you know, I have a video, a training video I do. It's called Never Run Out of People to Go See, and none of it involves cold calling, but it does involve calling the people that you do know and asking for their help.
Somewhat warmer calling.
A little bit warmer, right? It's not cold completely, but it involves doing. It's the nasties. Nobody wants to do the nasties. What they want is the stage. Give me the stage. They want the national championship trophy. They want the NBA title. They want all that. But they don't want the work that was involved to get there.
That hurts too much.
Oh, yeah. And that's why the satisfaction for these guys who win NBA titles and Super Bowl titles and Major League Baseball champ, all of it, for us down here, the Florida those guys sacrifice so much. And they grind, and they do stuff since the time they were 6 years old that others weren't willing to do to become who they are.
One of the best memes out there that I've seen is they show a pretty ballerina slipper with a lady's foot in it, and then and it looks cute and pretty and feminine. And then they say, but you don't know what it takes to become this. And then they show that same girl's foot without the shoe. And it's blisters, cuts, blood, bruise. They're standing on their tippy toes. You know, they slip, they fall, they hurt. They get, you know, people don't see those things. Nobody has. You know, you and I don't go around telling people, oh, you don't know how rough we had it. We almost lost everything one time, and we lost our best producer, or I lost my best employee. We don't talk about that. They see, like, wow, they've actually made it. But, you know, I find interesting what you said about living below your means. Man, you and I are on the same page with so many things. A friend of mine recently saw that I bought a new truck. But see, when I say a new truck, I don't buy new. It was 2 or 3 years old. I don't even know what year it is. I think it's 3 years old. Still under warranty. Yeah. You know, it lost already a lot of the depreciation. That's when I buy cars. When I was 22 years old, I read The Millionaire Next Door. There you go. As I was sitting on the front steps of the house I just bought. I was 22 and somebody gave me that book, and I go, oh, I think I'm doing things okay then, because I'm a cheapskate. Yeah. Well, or I was back then more of a cheapskate. Anyway, so that friend gets in the car with me, and he's looking at the truck, and he goes, really surprised that a guy like you didn't get the full package, the leather, the big screen, and I had to explain to him, and he's young. He's very successful, young entrepreneur, but he just couldn't get it. And I said, none of those things bring me happiness. In fact, what brings me security and feeling better is zeros in my bank account and my investments and being able to do the things that I do. But some people just see that surface level. Maybe they grow out of it. You know, maybe they don't. I'm sure you see people's finances. Oh, do they grow out of this?
It just depends on the person. And here's what I found out. It doesn't matter how much money you make. If you're bad with your finances, you're bad at $1 million a year, or you're bad at $50,000 a year in income, they're bad. I've sat down with doctors and attorneys, married, $200,000 in debt, not counting their student loans, and don't seem to have a care in the world. Go to all these really nice parties, do all these things, have zero financial discipline in their life, and it's going to cost them. And I sit down with them and I give them a game plan, and they look at me like, really? We got to do that? I'm like, yeah, that's what you need to do.
You're asking too much of them.
Right.
Because they've never had to make those sacrifices.
Correct.
Wow.
It's at every level though. So even the person who's barely making it at 50,000, they don't want to stop going out to eat. Like, listen, you can't go out to eat 5 times, a week.
You know what? I see a lot of young people, speaking of that, a lot of these young people are ordering takeout all the time. When you and I were in our early 20s, when did we order takeout and have people deliver food to us?
Right.
If I could save $3, I walked over there if I had to do it. But it's a normal thing. Look, I'll tell you, and you can relate to this, I'm sure. My wife and I were making, I'm going to guess, early on in our relationship, if we combined it. Actually, I remember one year we made $93,000 for the year. We didn't have kids yet, but that's combined, working full time and working a lot. And I remember we weren't going out to eat. We had no kids and we were making $93,000 back 20 something years ago, but we had bigger goals. We said, that's okay. We're making okay money together, but we want to buy more real estate. We want to put our 401ks maxed out every year. We want to do all these things. I can tell you, if there's a young person listening, I don't know anyone, and you tell me if you have more experience, that regrets those decisions.
Oh, no.
I do not. It built wealth for me, and it built this comfort that I don't have to work anymore.
Well, you can enjoy the journey and still plan for the future.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, it wasn't that we never went out to eat forever. It was, we were in a grind time. We were like, hey, for the next 3 months, 0 going out. And then that time passed. We okay, let's go out a little bit. And then we give ourselves another 3-month sprint of, let's just save every penny, buy more real estate, invest more. Yeah. And it doesn't work that way anymore. Now we get
nobody wants to suffer at all. Right? They're living their life. Most people live their life in pursuit of a cruise ship life. The reality of success is you're on a battleship for a long time. And if you don't understand that, you're never going to be successful. You're going to war against mediocrity. That's what you're doing. You're saying, I am not going to be mediocre. I'm going to do something special with my life. I'm not going to do what everybody else does. In fact, I'm going to get and find successful people around me. I'm going to read what they did. I'm going to read their grind. I'm going to read. That's what I'm going to do. But it's hard because the hardest part is separating from average. But the more separation you get from them, the less you're inclined to be anywhere near them because their thinking is all messed up.
Yeah, you start seeing it when you get out of that crowd. You know, you made an analogy to a cruise ship life, and you're really in a warship. You're in a battleship. But you just made me think of something. So cruise ship life, we all want that. Amazing. You're on vacation. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But let's say we all start, or many of us start off on a little rowboat. The way that I see people approach life is that, well, this is the little rowboat I have. One day I'd love the cruise ship. But in the meantime, let me pimp out and deck out my little rowboat, right? Let me get nicer paddles. They're not going to help me go any faster, but they look nice. Let me put some nice bling, some lights, some this, some that. I hope this makes sense for people. I don't know if that makes sense for you, but I see this. Look, I had a Dodge Colt, a 1990 Dodge Colt. This was back in 97, 98. This is a little tiny car. And I went to go get new tires at this place in California. And the guy tried to sell me these expensive rims. And I go, what? I was really stuck because I thought everybody did things like me. I'm just saving, I'm growing. And I go, what are you selling me these for? What would that do? We're talking about tires. He goes, yeah, man, but they'll look really nice. If I was happy with that little rowboat of a car and that was my future and that's where I'm going to be stuck for life, okay, I guess I'll put the nice rims. But I kept thinking, so I'll spend $1,000 or $2,000, whatever it was, and that's $2,000 I don't have toward the down payment of that investment I'm going to make.
Correct.
So thank God I didn't buy the stupid rims for that car.
Well, you know, the Hialeah in me is still there. Right? I'm driving a 2018 Chevy Silverado, 118,000 miles. And I know my people look at me like, why is he driving the truck still? Like that happened when I was making $500,000. It happened when in 2007, we went over $1 million in income. It happens today where people just look at you like, why? First of all, any dude that doesn't own a truck at some point in their life, something's wrong with them. That's the way I look.
Thank God I have one.
Right. I just think, man, when you have all that room and you have so much, like, it's the best.
Yeah.
It's so cool to have a truck, right? But, you know, like, my wife's a little different. You know, she's awesome, but she likes having a very reliable, nice vehicle, you know? So.
Yeah, that's all right. You could do that for her with no problem.
Right. Because it's still living way below my means.
Yeah.
And she's driving a really nice.
And how do you explain it to people who ask you, hey, you could buy whatever car you want. Why don't you? I'd love to hear your explanation.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time, if you want to impress people with your investment statements. That's how you want to impress them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Once you do that and say, okay, let me see yours.
Yeah.
Then the conversation is over. There's nowhere to go from there.
Yeah.
That's what's impressive.
You want to hear my sick weirdness? I've been in a Starbucks working or, on my laptop doing something. And I am a t-shirts and shorts guy typically. I'm always in sandals a lot. So I've been in the middle of the day, basically retired, and I've been sitting there doing something on a laptop. And some guys, I remember specifically one time, but it's happened many times. 3 guys came in suits, and they just look like $1 million. They all look like they had jobs, like they're just on their lunch break coming into there after lunch. And I remember thinking, man, if those guys were to look at me, I don't worry too much about what people think, but I thought, if they look at me, I look like a freaking bum right now. My t-shirt has a hole in it.
Yeah.
These are old ratty shorts. My sandals don't have any grip under them. I'm just sitting here like a bum. They probably look at me and think I'm poor guy. He doesn't have too much going on. And then I thought, because we don't wear our statements, our financial statements. I can't show anybody, and it doesn't matter ultimately. But to me, it just gave me this peace of mind of like, these guys look stressed. Their cortisol levels are probably high. They're grinding all the time at 50 years old. And here I am at 50. I'm relaxed. There's a trade-off there. I'd rather be in my position and look like the poor guy. I'm also less likely to get robbed.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I mean, when you talk about that, it's hilarious. My wife will go, that's how you're going? I'm like, yeah, what's wrong? Yeah. You know what I mean? I have zero desire. When I tell you I am over worrying or caring about what other people think about me, it is so locked in because that was a hurdle for me. Grinding, not a hurdle. Athlete my whole life. Always had to grind. I was always like the smallest guy. May not look like it now, but I was always the smallest guy on every team I played. Had to outwork everybody to be successful. That part of it, getting after it, stick-to-itiveness, just perseverance, tenacity, no problem. Why? I brought that with me into entrepreneurship. The things I didn't bring that were painful lessons, caring about what other people thought. Outworking, nobody's going to outwork me. Caring what other people thought. So everybody brings a set of skills with them into whatever it is they're doing.
And how'd you do this? How did you finally let that go?
Mentors in my life who would do training in the business. And what I heard most from them was the things that I needed to hear most. My upline, Greg Fitzpatrick, who born and raised down here in Broward County, used to be a teacher, basketball coach and teacher, would always say, you got to get to the point where you don't care. You get all your inhibitions out of you. You got to get to the point where you don't care what other people think about you. And I thought I heard him say it every meeting because it was so loud, because that's what I needed to hear. You needed that. I really needed to hear that. I also needed to hear, listen, stop controlling everybody. Because I didn't look at it as control. I looked at it like, I'm a good coach. I'm going to coach you to success. Because in football, you coach a kid, they're out there because they want to be successful. For the most part, they do what you say, and you see them get better. Not all of them, but you see them get better. In business, you bring on these people, you tell them what they got to do, and you don't realize they have so much baggage. And they don't need a business, they need a rehab center. Right? Like, go read these 3 or 4 books, write down what you read, come back and let's talk about it, and let me see if you're starting to change. Because where they're at there, they're not even ready to pick up a phone and make an appointment.
Yeah, so you can't throw them into that.
Yeah, they're so scared. So they're a 1 or 2 on the scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah, they're not ready.
Most of the people that we bring into entrepreneurship are 2s and 3s and 4s. For you to have consistent success, you better be 6.5, 7 and up. If you're not going to have consistent success because there's so many things that get to you. The other thing is, I found out how weak people were through disappointment. You get a no, the rejection.
Did they take it or did they crack?
Yeah, but they'll disappear for a month. And I'll be like, hey, man, where you been? Oh, I had this come up. No, you got to know from an uncle, and it destroyed you. So that's the other thing. When you don't care what people think anymore, those disappointments, they don't destroy you.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, man, you got about an hour to get over it. That's about it. After that, you got to get back on the saddle and let's go.
Yeah, stop the self-pity.
Yeah.
You know that my kids have all four sold thousands of dollars, each of them, in chocolates.
Oh.
My oldest, Ryan, in high school, 18 years old last year, he had $30,000 in the bank.
Wow.
And we don't give them $1. We don't pay their nothing. Right. We don't pay anything for them. But we teach them how to get rich.
Yeah.
And because by 10 years old, he's had 1,000 no's in his face.
Yeah.
No, kid, leave me alone. No, you can't sell here. Get out of here. Right? Because he's gone to every store, sold to everybody in the shopping centers and all that. They don't care anymore. My kids don't care when someone tells them no. They go, okay. And they walk off to the next one. Yeah. These are the little things I wish in school.
It's the greatest skill you could ever teach your kids.
Yeah. To sell,
yeah.
To take rejection, yeah. To craft their talk, their pitch, and maneuver it. Yeah. So we've been doing that. Real quick, give me 20 seconds.
Sure.
Guys, if you've been watching this podcast, you probably know, or you might not know because I don't talk about it too much, but I run a men's program. This is the book. If you're looking at it on video here, 31 Days to Become a Better Man. This is a $200 program. If it doesn't change your life, I'll give you your $200 back. You can't beat that. It's $200 plus a $20 book. The website is 31dailychallenges.com. And if you go to it, you're going to see a banner. Click on the men's challenges and scroll down. There's a couple of challenges, 31 Days to Become a Better Man, as well as Next Level Man. Check those out. See if it's for you. If it is, I'd love to go through that with you. This is, it's not one-on-one. It's a few guys with me. You're not looking at videos. We're working on stuff together to make your life even better than it already is. It's not for losers trying to change their life completely. This is for successful guys who are trying to move up and get to the next level in their life. Thanks for that. All right, let's talk about, we got a little bit of time left only. Band of Brothers. How'd you get introduced to that group and how'd you become such a big part of it?
13 years ago, 2012, I was invited by someone in our business in another state to come check out the Band of Brothers boot camp in Tyler, Texas. And because I'm so organized and structured, I wanted all the details. And he said, listen, man, you need to come. And he wasn't going to give me all the details.
Oh, just show up.
But his credibility with me was enough. So I said, okay, I'll go. I brought my son. It was absolutely one of the most transformative meetings I've ever been to. It started on a Thursday, ended on a Sunday morning, and I was absolutely blown away. And then they asked me if I would help run the Florida boot camp. So in 2013, we started the Florida boot camp. Been running it ever since. It has evolved into a lot of things. What is a boot camp? It's not what most people are thinking about a boot camp. It's a spiritual boot camp. And you get together with other men for 3 nights and 4 days, and you go through these meetings, and you have the most incredible free time you've ever had, from hog hunting, full gun range, archery tag, airboats, helicopter rides. It's like anything you like to do, even if you're like, I'm not into all that. Okay, great. Play chess, play dominoes, play cornhole, any sport you want. We have 15 tournaments going on throughout the weekend for guys to compete at and win prizes for those who are competitive and want to get after it a little bit, all the way down to just chilling, relaxing, and taking in the experience. So it's all based on a book called Wild at Heart, written by John Eldridge. He has a boot camp that he runs at his place in Colorado. And to get in, it's a lottery system. So if I had 20 of my friends, we all wanted to go, 2 or 3 of us might get in, the rest wouldn't. So we said, well, why don't we just start doing these boot camps ourselves using his videos? That started in 2008 in California. Since then, there's about 30 boot camps going on all over the United States, Canada, and now we're in a bunch of different foreign countries every year running a boot camp. But in Florida, guys would go transformational, come back, and they weren't the same a year later. They got taken out. By taken out, I mean men don't understand there's an enemy out there trying to take them down. And the moment they say, I'm going to be who God created me to be biblically, the enemy really pounces. If you're a man and you're not getting pounced on, it's because he doesn't need to mess with you, because you're not on the front lines taking ground for the kingdom. So there's no reason to mess with you. He messes with those who are trying to be the biblical man that God lays out in his word. And that's really what the Band of Brothers is all about. So we started doing rally points every 6 months. So we do a rally point, which is a similar meeting, but with different content. We bring in speakers to talk to men about what's going on with men. And the boot camp is reserved for a very strict 10 sessions, etc. Program. And then I realized these guys, number one, the first thing you have to do is you got to get in, meaning you got to be saved. If you're not a Christian, none of it's going to make sense. Like, nobody's excited about being the man of God the Bible says to be if you don't agree with it. So that's the first thing we do, is help people come to that realization, and the Holy Spirit takes over from there, and we see anywhere between 75 and 150 guys give their life to Christ at every event. It's incredible. Now, I don't know if you know what's going on with men in our society, but it's not good for the most part. There's a lot happening out there that is not good. You know, we often hear about the war on women. The truth is, the war on men is significantly greater, and what the culture has done to men. Every time a man does what they're supposed to do, they're being called toxic. They call it toxic masculinity. Yeah. But that's completely the opposite of what is actually happening. So men are confused, apathetic. They've surrendered their biblical role that they're supposed to be in to somebody else or their wife. And it's not the natural order of things.
And the irony is that often when the man surrenders in that way, not only is he not fulfilled and happy, oftentimes his wife's not happy either.
Oh, for sure. There's just discord everywhere. And, you know, that's why the marriage, divorce rate is what it is. And there's so much going on involved with this. And not enough people are talking about it because they're afraid of the mob out there and what they're going to say. Yeah, they're going to get canceled. And I've been canceled plenty of times because I'm very forthcoming about what I believe a man's role is as a protector, as a provider, as the priest of their home, as the person who is supposed to lead, guide, and direct in their home. And when that's missing and somebody else is doing it, there's always issues with those kids, etc.
I heard someone the other day on a video that someone sent me, and it said how the feminist movement has showed women to not let their husband lead, not take orders, be their own boss. But then most of these women are going to a job where a man is their boss and tells them what to do for 8 hours a day, and that's okay. But if your husband says, hey, I think we should make this decision, how dare you?
Yeah, that, you know, this has been a battle because our whole goal of the Band of Brothers, like, what's the vision? What are you trying to do? We are creating warriors for Christ on the front lines, taking ground for the kingdom. Now, some of the people out there will understand this, some of them won't, but in the church world today, men are absent. They may go to church, but they're not involved. They're what I call a pew sitter, sitting in the pews, making mama happy.
Their wife.
Yeah, making their wife happy so that, you know, things will go well that week. You know, putting their kids in a nice, wholesome environment because they know it's bad out there. These are not men who are sold out. They're not sold out. Part of the problem is the church, and I'm not talking about a specific church, I'm talking about church overall, is feminine. 70% of people who are attending churches in the United States are women. 25% of married women go to church every weekend without their husband. Okay? Church is not a place for a guy. Now, you start presenting biblical manhood, men rise up. Oh, that's something I can get behind. Men are designed for battle. competition, adventure. They want a beauty to rescue. That's really where their heart is. The heart of a man is in battle, is competing. And when you present that to them in the context of Christianity, wow, they rise up.
But it's not happening because you see there's women in the pews. I don't know which one came first, chicken or the egg, but you see the women in the pews, so they're not going to talk about that.
Well,
it's a softer message.
But you say it's a softer message. So what happens is pastors speak to those who are there. And if 70% are women, and by the way, 75% of volunteers in church are women, 75% of all the volunteers are women, okay? You preach to who's there. Whether you do it subconsciously or not, that's what's happening.
Makes total sense.
Right. So because of that, you have this unattractive thing for men. Even though, like, all the troops in church are women, run by a male general.
Yeah.
You got one male general running the whole thing, okay, leading the whole thing. And it's all women that they're leading and guiding and directing because the men aren't there. And when they are there, they're apathetic. And the biggest problem that we have noticed in men coming back from one of our events is finding a church that has a vibrant, let's get after it, men's ministry.
Oh, yeah.
Only 10% of churches, statistically, have a vibrant men's ministry.
Wow.
Most of them go through the same cycle. We're going to get our men's ministry going. They're all fired up. They're excited. And they start it. And their first meeting is awesome. And the wrong people are running it. When your men's ministry are run by really nice guys, they're just nice guys.
Yeah. It's not.
Men aren't attracted to that.
It's not attracting the right guy to be in it.
Right.
You know, it's interesting because I've reached out to multiple churches about my program and seeing if we could partner to get some of the guys through my 31 days. And there doesn't seem to be any interest. And I tell them it's all, nothing in here will contradict the Bible. And it's all to make stronger men, husbands, you know, and no interest.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me even a little bit. You know, I know all the stats, and it's really sad what's going on. Let me give you a quick example.
Yeah.
Women get better grades than men. Nobody's surprised about that. Women smoke a lot less weed than men. Okay. Women go to more prestigious colleges. Women live 5 years longer than men. Every mass shooting, for the most part, is a man. People say, "Oh, what about that one in I think it was Tennessee?" So yeah, that was a person who said they were a man. Okay, so 90% of prison inmates are men. High school graduation, more girls than boys graduate. College degrees are given way more proportionately right now to women than men. They earn the majority of doctoral degrees today. More women drive and have a driver's license than men.
Wow.
Just little things that you would think, oh, well, all men do that. They don't. A recent survey found that 50% of men are failing the entry-level test to get into the armed services.
Wow.
Now, these are men who know what's coming. All you got to do is look it up. Here's what you got to be ready for. It's coming in 6 months, a year. Let's get after it. Let's go train. 50% are failing what they know is coming. Okay? This is a horrible, okay? Now, these are the people who are supposed to protect us in the military. Now, think about that. David Goggins talks about it. You know, you got 100 soldiers. He goes, 90% of them are just there to be killed. Thinking, all that, all wrong, right? It's like one warrior out of 100, right? Out there. It's just really, really sad. Okay, so what is the result? Universities are becoming convents. There's 2.5 women enrolling in Christian universities for every one man. So I tell guys all the time, man, you want a beautiful Christian woman?
That's a place to go.
Go to a Christian college.
Yeah.
You're going to have the pick of the
Great
litter.
odds.
They're looking for real men.
Yeah.
You know, the problem is they go there and they go, these guys are so soft. They're not real men. And this is what happens in churches is men get put in charge of running the men's ministry who don't even come close to displaying the biblical model for manhood. And men aren't attracted.
Yeah.
The Band of Brothers was created to draw out men who are that man. We give men permission to be men.
And they've been dormant, and then they go to
Yes.
your event and they start waking up and
Yes,
coming
they
back to
start
their
waking up.
community. Oh, I signed up, and I will be there in a few months at the
Yeah.
next one that you have.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and then we'll
Yeah.
definitely talk more about it as I have the experience myself. Last thing is, if someone's interested in this financial services world, young guy, young girl who wants to learn that, and how could they learn more about you and get in contact with you?
Yeah. The easiest way to get in contact with me is to call my office at 954-680-3090.
Say that one more time and say it slowly.
954-680-3090. And I help people all over the United States. So it doesn't matter where you live. I'm licensed in all 50 states to sit down and help people get their finances together. And we deal with everything, mainly investments, but insurances and mortgages and all kinds of stuff that is designed to help them just get a great plan in place so that they're taken care of.
Good. So that works if they're interested in buying products for investment, or it's somebody who wants to be on your team potentially.
Right. If somebody's looking to start a business and they don't want a business that is going to be dependent on them forever, if they'd like a business where they can duplicate themselves through other people so that their income source comes from many, many people. To give an example, in 1991, I left coaching and teaching. Today, our business has 134 offices and just approaching 14,000 financial advisors.
Wow.
And that's what has given us, my wife and I, the freedom to do ministry at a high level. And for me, it's men's ministry. Because statistically, if you get the man, you get the family. If you don't get the man, you're not getting a family.
Yeah.
And there's all kinds of stats that show that. So we got to get the men.
Yeah.
And that's really, now it's harder because men need to get healed. Most men aren't discipled, so we put them through the CBMC
Timothy.
Operation Timothy for discipleship. And then we take them through Forgiving Forward, which is a 10-week program on getting rid of all that poison you have towards whoever it is you have it towards. For men, a lot of times it's their dad. We got to get unforgiveness out of us. And then the enemy, once you start taking these steps, he really attacks men in the area of sexual addiction and lust and porn and all that. And we put them through a program to help them understand what's going on there so they can get victory over it. For example, the average church has said, stop doing it. Okay, thanks. If it was, try harder. If it was try harder, I wouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, you need the tools.
I've tried as hard as I know what to do. Right. And that's really what the program gives them. And it's just a very effective program to help men figure it out. But at the end of the day, they have to put their hand up and say, yeah, I'm willing to do it. Let's go.
Yeah. What's that, the boot camp? What's the website? Is it Band of Brothers?
Band of Brothers, FL for Florida.com. Band of Brothers, FL.com.
Cool. Guy, thanks for being here. I think this has been a great chat, gotten to know you even better. And you said so many things that I think will inspire young men to get to their next level. The process is never over, but there's a first step to take. And I think you provided many of them in many parts of life. Thanks for being here, man.
Great to be here. Thank you, Joel. Appreciate it.